Hello and welcome to the Turkish Grand Prix from the pit lane, but we are in the paddock again because this being the first European race, I wanted to show you some of the new and interesting motorhomes in here, and about right that we start at Pirelli because this race really was all about the Pirelli tyres. And just talking of motorhomes, look at this, they coated the whole, it's the first matte motorhome I've ever seen, and it looks like carbon fibre, but I'm happy to say an entire carbon fibre double motorhome would probably cost short of about a couple of £1,000,000, I would have thought. So that is just a plastic covering. But it's the first time I've seen a matte motorhome in the paddock. But Pirelli, as I say, is a big story because we just spoke to their motorsport director, Paul Hembry, and he said, you know what, there are two things that kind of worried us today. First of all, we saw a lot of blistering on the tyres, and not least at Mercedes, and we're a bit worried about that. And the second thing is that we saw 4 stops, and Pirelli motorsport director admitted that that's too much. They don't really want to see a race with 4 stops being the optimum strategy. They say they'd rather see 3 stops and maybe some people trying to chance it on 2. And that's an interesting view. We'll follow that up in Spain when we're expecting actually the degradation to be just as bad. But Pirelli do make the point that they're bringing a much more durable, hard tyre to Spain, and they're expecting to get more life out of that. Okay, if we can just go past this packing case, Matt, that we had a small encounter, and talk about Red Bull before we move down the paddock. Again, 2 very interesting things about Red Bull. This was the first race all season where they have had fully functioning KERS on both cars all race. And it's not something they're proud of. We just spoke to Adrian Newey, and he said it is about the tight packaging at the back. And he said it didn't actually have anything to do with it, that it's a lot colder here in Turkey than it has been at the first few races of the year, because what affects the KERS overheating is the temperature inside the carbon fibre shrouds and the side pods where the cooling is located. So they've got a bit more air to the water and the oil cooling on the KERS for this race, and that has really helped them. And the other thing was that Newey was saying that this season is unlike last in that Vettel is just running away with it, and that's because Mark Webber had such a, comparatively speaking, compared to Vettel, a poor start to the season. And he said he wouldn't be at all surprised if this year's championship is a lot less close between those 2 drivers as it was last year. 2 more teams to talk about, McLaren and Williams, and we've brought you inside the McLaren motorhome, or the brand centre, or whatever they call it. And here's the scene, Jenson Button explaining his race to the gentlemen of Fleet Street. We have respectively the Times, the Mirror and the Telegraph there represented. And well, his hunched demeanour says it all, because he was really upset that he started in the same place he finished and didn't make any progress. And I'm going to come outside because I'm about to explain why, according to some McLaren engineers, it was Jenson Button's fault that he didn't make that progress. Now, just to make it clear, Jenson Button was on 3 stops. That was his and the team's decision, and they decided to do that in the briefings, and then they kept with that plan throughout the race. The problem was Jenson wasn't quick enough in the middle 2 stints of the race, and I've got the times here. I'll just put it up to the wall, and hopefully Jenson won't be able to see what we're talking about. It's these 2. If you can see, this is the second stint, and he's doing 34s and 33s, a 35 which was slow, 34s. When you look at Fernando Alonso, he's on the 4 stop, he's doing 33s and 32s. Then the next stint, this is really the important one. Jenson's doing 33s, 34s, 33s, a couple of 32s, when really he should have been doing 32s and 31s. Now, it wasn't his fault. He was driving to what he thought he wanted to do with the tyres, i.e. he wanted the tyres to last as long as possible. So he was driving within himself. He could have gone faster. And there's the rub. If he had gone faster in those 2 stints, in the final analysis, once the 4 stoppers had made their final stops, Jenson would have had enough of a gap on them to maintain that 4th place. As it was, he hadn't been fast enough in the middle of the race, and that meant when the 4 stoppers made their stops and everyone was equal, they could reel him in, and Jenson didn't have enough time to defend his 4th position. So Jenson said in his interview with Lee Mackenzie that he was saying it was the wrong strategy, and the team maybe accept that, but they're also saying that Jenson actually didn't make it work himself. Just a final thought on Williams, and I've written it down because it is quite interesting, on Sam Michael. Of course, he's taken responsibility for Williams' bad start to the season, along with their head of aerodynamics, John Tomlinson. He's tendered his resignation, and Williams have accepted it. But Sam Michael was telling us the other day that he will definitely be in Formula One next year. He's talking very quietly to a couple of other teams, both small teams and big teams, although it's hard to see out of these big teams, Ferrari, McLaren, Red Bull and Mercedes, where would an opening for Sam Michael be? If you've got any suggestions, maybe you can write them to me on a postcard. But he was also saying that it's not impossible that he might go back to Williams later on down the line. He's a young man, he's only 40 years old, although he does look a lot younger. And he was saying, what's important to me is that I want to leave in a professional way and on good terms with the team, so that if it does happen that our paths cross again, there won't be any bad feeling. But it's unfortunate, because Sam's a good guy and a good engineer. I'm sure he'll find a place with another team very soon. He'll continue with Williams until the end of the year. Then he'll take a 2-month gardening leave until the 1st of March. But if he does get a new job with the team, Williams might decide that they don't want him around gathering all their information about next year's car, and they'll send him off to do some gardening leave. Okay, that's about it. We'll see you in Spain in 2 weeks' time.